Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
But tell me, Eddie, is that a rabbit in your pocket, or you're just happy to see me?
Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm going to be off camera, at least for tonight, because tomorrow I'm going to have a fairly busy morning, so I have to get the lamb, basically, a chunk of the food for this coming Easter weekend. So, for those who do not know much about me, I am half Middle Eastern, and we have Arabic food around Easter and Christmas.
So it's half Easter.
Pretty much, yeah. But, I have to pick up the lamb, and my mom does her little basically blend of spices. So at some point I am told, well, I think I told Grant this basically, but I figure whenever I get to Australia to kind of physically assault Blake, I figure I'll make the Aussies lamb. Figure probably the least I could do after I how'd I put this? Embarrass one live. Anyway, welcome everyone. It's our personal top 10 list. Yes, I'm going to be off camera, and then in fact I'm tired. It's been up and down weather. It's cold. I didn't feel like putting on any makeup, but I should be live tomorrow, in which case I will be on camera because I'll be trying to fucking beat the last boss in Doom 2016. We'll see. We'll see. I actually have, well, according to, because I see Metal Mania's comments, my mom did one of those ancestry tests, and she at least is descended from that Italian/Greek region, basically Greek, that region. And I'll shut up in a little bit, but because of the fact that I'm part Syrian, and the region my mom's family is from in Syria it either still has or had, I'm not sure, but a Crusader castle, basically. And the region itself is predominantly Christian, chances are very high that I am descended through my mom's side of the family from a Crusader. So that basically that makes sense that there is some ancestry going back to the Mediterranean area, Italian, Greek. So technically, yeah, I'm part Italian too.
I have some Indian gypsy witch stuff in my blood.
Mm-hmm.
Like India, like curry Indians, not Americans. So I could probably do the Kali Ma thing if I really wanted to.
Probably, but before I say hello to the chat, Stig, let everybody know where you're located, should they choose to find you.
On Twitter and on this channel twice per month, usually, kind of. If I'm awake for these though, but not always for the weird.
I tell you, I can handle that stream basically because the Worldwide Weird is a stream where it's pretty much just going through articles and commenting on the weirdness / stupidity / comedy of it all.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have to slaughter a lamb tomorrow, thank God. No, I couldn't do that. I just had to pick it up from this local deli. So its quality is better. But anyway, I'm going to say hello to the chat. And from the top, I see Trey. Hello. Good to see you. Jaluk, what is up? Hello, Gravy D. I'm going to pretend you did not type this, Gravy. Mike, yeah, we had to postpone it. I wasn't really feeling well. The first Wednesday we would have done it, then Sieg wasn't feeling well. So it's this is the next to the last possible Wednesday we could do it, not including the absolute last Wednesday. But hello, Metal Mania, good to see you. Yeah, this is my Kick. I do gaming streams primarily on my Kick and Twitch. So good to see you all. Yeah. Terra Crystal, hello. Soul Assassin, what is up? I don't know if this is my Discord or not, Trey. I don't know if I'm going to be doing a watch party for WrestleMania on my Discord this weekend, but that is my Discord, and I do watch parties over there. So I can't tell what it is based on just the link itself. Rush Hour has to be on the list. Well, it's on my list. I don't know about Stieg.
No,
So there you go.
I can't stand Chris Tucker.
Well, it's on my list. I don't know what tribe of Native Americans, but my dad found out that when he did his ancestry, there's 1% Native American. So technically, I have more Native American blood in me than Pocahontas. So, good God, no. And Philippa Boyens apparently is one of the head writers for that movie, so you know it's gonna be shit.
Yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, anyway, so yeah. But
I
anyway.
probably have a lot of white in me, says Trey
Yeah.
Courtney. That sounds dirty.
Anyway, I'm not going to touch that one. Not touching it. Anyway, what we do, and I make Sig do this every time.
Yes, you do.
Yes, I do. Yeah, because I want to see if there's ever that chance the die goes your way. Because what he does is he rolls a d20, and I pick either 1 to 10 or 11 to 20 to see who starts first. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll take 11 through 20 tonight.
13.
I don't know, chat. I don't. And on Discord, since I'm thinking about it, and I'll try to remember to say it again. I'm going to be showing you guys something that Stieg made for the D&D group. So I think you will appreciate it. I cannot play it live at all. I will get hit with the copyright. Stieg can attest to that. I will definitely get hit with the copyright.
Yeah.
At the very least, a claim, possibly a strike.
Technically, that's also my very first video I ever kind of made myself.
Yeah.
On
So,
YouTube.
And I'm sure you guys will like it. I just can't play it live.
Except for that stupid shit I did where I put like the Hulk figure in the glass and filled it with water and claimed it was a Marvel reference.
Yeah.
And someone bought it and kept commenting for 6 months.
I remember that. I remember that. He does. When he posts videos, when he would post videos, he did that shit just to mess with people. Well, anyway,
I kind of didn't. It was a joke, yes, but I didn't intend for it to mess with people. But then once it did, I after 6 months and a guy rewatching every Marvel movie and getting angrier and angrier, I can't like just tell him after that hey, no, it was all bullshit.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so my number 10, because we go 10 to 1. My number 10 is, where is the comment? Is this? Okay. It is not. Yes, it's called Godzilla 98. It's referred to as. It's called Godzilla. It's referred to as Godzilla 98. But is it a Godzilla? Is it a good Godzilla movie? No, it's a bad Godzilla movie. I don't even consider it a Godzilla movie. If you like turn that part of your brain off and watch it just as a giant monster movie-ish. So objectively, still not that good, but subjectively fun because it's a giant monster. Basically, who decides at some point to migrate to New York and causes havoc. You know what I know it doesn't even look like Godzilla. As I said, you have to watch this kind of like a giant lizard movie, basically. And yeah, Gravy kind of brought that up earlier, like the fact that Puff Daddy had a song that was part of the soundtrack. Anyway, so basically, it kind of follows along with the when I say follows along with them, I mean like the creation of Godzilla, basically, because Godzilla, the Gojira, was a commentary on the aftermath of nuclear war. So you have a primordial creature that grows to gigantic size with radioactive breath as a result of the radiation from the nuclear bombs dropped on Japan. So basically kind of like, follows along there, which is why they call it Godzilla. But, the fact that it doesn't even look like Toho's Godzilla or even remotely close to that. Watch it as a giant lizard movie. I primarily... what the two things that stand out to me about this movie is, one, Jean Reno is the best, is like the best part of that movie. Matthew Broderick, I don't know why he was cast, but Matthew Broderick is the lead. However, Jean Reno steals every scene he's in. Right? Even I would go so far as to say even Hank Azaria is one of the better parts of that movie. But Jean Reno is definitely the best part of that movie. His character, he plays like this French Secret Service agent who's been tracking this creature. They're tracking the creature. Remove Matthew Broderick and the actors who played the girlfriend, and I would remove those characters and just focus on Jean Reno. So that's what I would.
Still, even though the movie is subjectively kind of shit, it's still really fun and rewatchable. It's kind of.
I'm saying it's objectively like still not like that good objectively, even as a giant monster movie, but subjectively it's fun. But I would have still removed Broderick and whatever the actress's name was who played his girlfriend. And this is what also I remember basically. What whenever I think of Godzilla '98, I think of the Taco Bell commercials associated with the movie, because the Taco Bell had a tie-in basically in their advertising with Godzilla '98 when the movie came out. And I remember Chihuahua that dropped the chalupa Chihuahua with a like those cartoon-esque box with a stick propping it up to trap the creature basically, and then here lizard and the animated series. That was the good part about this movie. When this movie came out, it gave us a good monster series, basically. Yeah, I watched the animated series. So basically, it gave a good monster series. I don't want to exactly call it Godzilla because I don't consider it Godzilla necessarily. But while the movie's objectively not that good, I really loved the animated series that came out as a result of the movie. So yeah. But so basically, it's a giant monster movie. Basically, I'm not going to go into details, but basically it's like a nuclear test in another region of the world. Basically, exposes this creature to this creature is exposed, much like the origin of Godzilla, and grows to massive size. Manages to make its way to the United States. Broderick plays a scientist who's researching the effects of radiation on wildlife and blah 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 blah, and believes that that the creature itself is not a living dinosaur, but was a mutant created by radiation. Basically no shit. And so forth. That's basically the gist. I'm not going to go into details because, like I said, his character and the girlfriend I could have easily done without in the movie. Those characters could have easily done without in the movie. When I watch it, I just okay, shut up, Broderick. I went I'm listening to Jean Reno, basically. So, but that's my number 10.
Yeah. Well, my number 10 is a kind of a creature flick as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Faculty.
That's on. No, it's not on my list. Okay, it was on the overall list. I was telling Sieg in the back that I had 55 films. I had to narrow down to 10.
Well, this one made mine.
Yes.
Just barely. It's campy fun with a great cast. It's like a B-movie sci-fi thing. So basically, something starts affecting the water in a small town, particularly near a school. And the faculty at the school gets infected and taken over. And it's a little bit like the, invasion of the body snatchers. And then a couple of students realize, hey, something's off. And they start to investigate. And I think the main creature is from space. I can't remember. Great cast in it. Salma Hayek, Famke Janssen, Robert Patrick is in it. Josh Hartnett, full of fairly big names, and great campy fun. Objectively, it's not a great movie, but it's very entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
it very much is Invasion of the Body Snatchers esque.
yeah. Oh yeah, Elijah Wood is in it too. Yeah. Um, if someone hasn't seen this one before, I highly recommend it. Just don't expect The Godfather. Just
Doesn't it have the uh, what's his name? Robert Patrick? Who?
Yeah, he plays the coach.
Yeah, I was gonna say because it was just on recently, and I was like, bro, he was in that.
Yeah, and he's very good in it too.
Mm-hmm. So, but like I said, did not make my list, but it's one of the movies I do remember seeing, particularly recently because it was on not too long ago, and I caught most of it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I'm doing 9.
Yes.
Action adventure movie, The Mask of Zorro.
All right.
Is that on yours?
Nope.
Oh.
I had to narrow down from 55 to 10. I had to leave a lot off.
Yeah. Well, Anthony Hopkins plays Zorro at the beginning, and he gets he gets arrested, and his little girl is kidnapped from him. Fast forward a few decades, I think, and Antonia Banderas gets trained by Hopkins to become the new Zorro. And Zorro's daughter has returned. They find out that, yes, it's Catherine Zeta-Jones, who is really good in this movie. Love story happens between her and Banderas, and lots of fun, swashbuckling action. It's like an action drama comedy, to be honest. It's like a good mix between all of them. Anthony Hopkins is superb in it. Banderas is perfectly cast as Zorro, and Catherine Zeta-Jones. I think this is the movie that put her on the map.
Yeah.
But yeah, just if you like adventure movies with lots of just fun action, you can do worse than this one.
Oh yeah.
The sequel is not that good. That's a step down, but it's still watchable. But this one was really good.
Yeah, I think like the thing that stands out to me from like the first movie was when Anthony Hopkins is training Banderas' character.
Yeah.
That part is my favorite part.
Also, in today's Hollywood, where you have representation and all the heroes are white and we need to fix it, blah blah blah. Why not make a new Zorro movie? They can make tens of them, right? Just have a new villain in each story.
Well, they could. I just don't trust them not to go the route of evil white man in every one of them right now.
Well, since it takes place in Mexico,
they're not going to show evil they're not going to do that. It's going to I don't trust Hollywood nowadays. I just don't.
Yeah,
they're going to find a way to insert evil white man into it.
Yeah, but there were evil white men at that time, so
I know, but that's going to be the focus, basically. That's going to be the focus. I can guarantee it at this point that they would do it, and God no, they better not. No.
Yeah.
Or the bait and switch where it looks like a Zorro movie, but it's not. It's going to be about his daughter.
Back when Pedro Pascal was on Game of Thrones, I could have easily seen him play Zorro. But that was before I knew that he was a complete piece of shit.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It's also as in saying we need more Latino villains, which I don't trust Hollywood to do, or at least they're not going to do because they're not going to portray Latinos as evil and or villainous, even though they would be villainous back then, even.
Yeah, I remember the outcry when the fifth Rambo movie came out, and it was Rambo against the cartels.
Oh yeah. Hello. But anyway, my number 9 is pretty much the only, I guess, romance movie, if you want to call it that, on my list. But I very much enjoy it because I like movies, even fairy tale movies with a twist. It doesn't have to be a dark twist, just a twist, basically. Like not necessarily a reimagining, but kind of like, what if this like really happens, or sort of a situation, basically. And that's the movie Ever After, with Drew Barrymore as what's her character's name? She calls herself Danielle. Hold on. Or no, she calls herself something else, basically. But like she's not referred to as Cinderella, but basically it's like it's the quote unquote true story, basically, behind the Cinderella tale. It starts out with these two gentlemen traveling to this castle and greeted by, I think it's like, I'll say a queen, basically, because you don't know exactly like who each, like, who, like, like the woman is, basically, but she's talking to them and she's saying, like, she very much enjoyed it. It's the Grimm brothers, basically, and she's like, I very much enjoyed your tales, but the Cinderella one, like, you got some details wrong, essentially. And so she recounts, Small Soldiers. That was, what, I would have included it but as an honorable mention. Small Soldiers. Yeah. Yeah, it's basically like a medieval fantasy movie, basically. But it's like, it's essentially, it's like, what if the tale, like, what if the tale of Cinderella was inspired by like real events, basically. And I think Angelica Houston plays the evil stepmother. I can't remember the actress's name. She was in Rose Red as the older sister. She's recently in the series Yellow Jackets, but she plays one of the stepsisters. So basically, like, I don't want to go too much into details necessarily, but I'm just going to spoil this at least a little bit, and that is that, like, the true story is that only one of the stepsisters was actually a bitch, basically. So it's, you include that. You also have Leonardo da Vinci playing a role in the story as well, which I've found like very amusing and so forth. Melanie Linsky, thank you. She was in that movie, basically. So it's like stars Drew Barrymore. I can't remember the actor's name that plays the prince. He was in, I want to say, the first Mission Impossible, but he plays the prince in this movie. If you haven't seen it, it is, kind of a romantic comedy, because it is, the true tale of sorts of Cinderella. But I very much enjoy it. It's like, doesn't lean too heavily in the romance or anything like that. I think it's a good blend of the two. With like, a good, like I said, a good dash of comedy. And it actually works. And the comedy actually, in my opinion, actually works. Doug Ray Scott, thank you. He plays the prince. He plays the prince in this. So, if you haven't seen it, I'm just saying, if you haven't seen it, I recommend giving it like at least one watch. At least one watch. It's like, it is obviously going to be a romance type movie, because it's Cinderella. It's essentially Cinderella, so there's going to be a little bit of romance. But like I said, it doesn't lean too heavily into the romance. So it's like, I just think, a good blend of the medieval aspects, like in the time period, the romance, the comedy, and so forth. And a lot of the comedy is in the dialogue. There's some situational comedy, but a lot of it is in the dialogue. So that's my number 9, Ever After. I think, Trey, you'll like the scene where, I'm just going to say this, where Leonardo da Vinci opens a door. I like what he says after it. I'm not going to say, it sounds weird how I describe it, but I don't want to give away the scene itself, basically. But he says something that always like makes me laugh afterwards. So, but I think you might enjoy it. If you haven't seen it, I'm not saying you'll love it, but you might enjoy it. So I would kind of recommend at least a watch. So that's my number 9. Ever After. Now my number 8. So this is one of those words. I think this is one of those movies where it's an acquired taste because it is very weird. And typically the Coen brothers, they're not exactly normal. But I enjoy this because it's like it starts out with like, how do I put this? How do I put this? Jeff Bridges plays the dude with the last name Lebowski, and he's accosted by these two guys because they're looking for a guy by that name, and they get the wrong guy. Mistaken identity, basically. It all starts with like the whole thing of like mistaken identity, and like just morphs into this kidnapping tale, peppered with the fact that Lebowski and his two friends love to bowl, and I think the bowling scenes are some of the best in the movie. Which is why I added it to the list, because I love John Goodman as an actor, as Steve Buscemi. Also, John Turturro is also in this. Yeah, it was 1998. Can't believe it's like that been that long, basically. And it's like the whole thing is tied together because of a rug. The whole plot, I think, it's kind of like the intrinsic nature of the storytelling, and that is like everything centers on a rug.
You know what the best scene is, though?
Mm-hmm.
When they toss the raging ferret into the tub with them.
Yeah. It also has Philip Seymour Hoffman, I believe, in this. Julianne Moore.
Sam Elliott, I think.
Yeah, like there's a good cast in this movie. There's a good cast. John Goodman's character is based off John Milius, I hear. I can believe that. So you can. I'm not saying it's like necessarily like the best movie, basically, but like I said, I included it because I love the scenes with John Goodman and Steve Buscemi and like the bowling scenes, basically. The overall movie, I think, is decent, but I love just because I love John Goodman as an actor, and Steve Buscemi, I think, is very underrated as an actor.
Oh yeah,
yes. And I think that they bounce very well off each other with Jeff Bridges in those scenes, and then like the very subtle sexual innuendos also in those scenes. If you're like, which is what I enjoy, basically. So I'm not saying necessarily go out and watch it. Like, I'm not saying like, it deserves at least one watch, basically. But you do have to pay attention. It's one of those movies where you do have to pay attention because I don't want to say there's a mystery to it necessarily, but like a lot of circumstances happen and you have to follow along, otherwise you will be lost. They are very nihilist. Yeah, it's saying you have to listen. You have to listen, and you have to listen to what the characters are saying. So you can't. It's one of those movies where it's like you can't exactly do something else and feel like you can pay attention at the same time. Which is why it's like if you are going to watch it or rewatch it, it's one of those movies where you do have to sit down and pay attention. People in chat mentioned it as part of their top 10 so far, Mikey, but us on the panel, no, not yet. But that is my number 8, Big Lebowski. I can't get too much into that plot because I don't want to give anything away. But a lot happens. Anyway, that's my number 8, The Big Lebowski.
Yeah, is my turn? Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's the X-Files movie.
Yeah, there you go.
8. Yeah.
The Waterboy is not on my list, sorry.
I'm not sure if it had been done before that uh, that they did a movie connected to a TV show as the TV show was airing.
Hmm.
I think that's fairly uncommon, and it was a cinema release too. It wasn't just like a TV movie to you know just spam. But it's a very good movie. I thought it's got Mulder and Scully in it, and most of the cast from the X Files and all that, and it bridges season 4 and 5, I think, or maybe it's 5 and 6. It's one of those. So unless you've been watching the TV show, don't watch the movie.
Hmm.
Basically, watch the TV show up until the movie, then do the movie because it is tied to the plot. It's not a standalone movie. The second X Files movie they did, that one works well as a standalone thing. This one, nah, it's for the fans, that are
Hmm.
waiting for the next season. But yeah, like Trey says, it's basically a giant episode,
Hmm.
and it's tied to the main plot. It probably would have been better if they did like a one long Monster of the Week episode, because that would have probably been better for normies or whatever. But anyway, there's not much I can say about it without because I have to like spoil, or rather talk about 4 previous seasons before I get to the movie, right? So
Hmm. Yeah, and that will get into spoilers.
yeah, and it would take hours
Yeah, so
because there's like 4 seasons of build up.
yeah.
But yeah, the X Files movie.
Mhm.
It's also the X Files also my favorite TV show. So it's I'm a big fan.
X Files is one of the shows where it's like I would watch occasionally, but my mom was really the one that would watch it.
Oh well,
She's the one who's really watched it, and so
I think
I think
you'd,
like part of the reason why is because I was watching other shows then.
yeah, I think you'd like it though. That one and Twin Peaks.
Hmm.
I think both are probably right up your alley. But anyway, that was my number 8.
All right, and you start number 7.
Yeah, number 7 is a bit of an under the radar movie, I guess. It's an action movie called Hard Rain, starring.
I wouldn't say it's under the radar necessarily, but probably not well known.
Yeah, it's not it's not a big name action movie,
Hmm.
but it's I think it's good. It stars Christian Slater and Morgan Freeman. Christian Slater's kind of like a money transport guy. Uh, Morgan Freeman wants to rob him. Then a flood happens in the city where they're trying to do highway robbery on that money transport. The plot kind of expands and thickens, and Randy Quaid, who's the local sheriff, decides he wants the money, and the big escalating flood will cover all the evidence. Right, it's perfect crime. Betty White is in there, and shit, was it? It wasn't Claire Forlani. It was the other one. Like Minnie Driver is in it, but Betty White's awesome in this, and the action's good. Morgan Freeman, Slater, everything's good in this. It's just not great,
Mhm.
It's just it's good, kind of like a 7, solid 7 out of 10, very rewatchable, well made. I think I first saw it on Laserdisc when I was in '98. But for people who are looking for just a fun, shut your brain off kind of action movie with some good actors in it. Hard Rain is, it's there. Go watch it.
Minnie Driver, I think, kind of fell off the radar after the 90s.
Yes,
she was big in
she
the 90s,
vanished.
and I don't remember her much of anything.
She had a small role in Goldeneye too, as a Robbie Coltrane's girlfriend doing karaoke singing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have no idea where. I don't even think I'm not even sure if I've seen her in anything since Hard Rain.
So I'd have to look up her filmography because, like I said, she was kind of like big in the. When I say big, I mean like, at least like she was working in the 90s. So like more often than not, you would see her in a film. But like once it got to the 2000s, I don't know if she like retired or something. I don't know, but I barely saw her.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway, that was
sitcom
my
like TV
number.
is one thing. I'm talking about like movies. Basically, just kind of like really fell off the radar.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah, that was my 8 and 7.
yes, my 7 is probably where the movie where I like started like saying, okay, Robin Williams he can still be funny, but he can do a more serious role. Like his acting style like, when I say acting style can transcend from comedy to drama. And it's a tearjerker. It is a tearjerker of a movie, so if like you don't like to cry, I wouldn't watch this movie. But Patch Adams, which I believe is based on a true story. It's set in like the late '60s, where like Robin Williams plays the titular character Patch Adams. So he's suicidal, and as a result, he doesn't, obviously does not commit suicide, but he like commits himself to a mental institution. There, he discovers that using humor rather than the therapy he's going through benefits him more. Like it benefits him and his fellow patients more. So that gives him new purpose in life. And after that, he decides, well, I'm gonna go become a doctor. And
I've never seen this.
Yeah, it sounds basically like, that there's like no way that could be necessarily a believable movie or believable plot, but it's actually a true story. It's based on a true story. So he goes to medical school and becomes a doctor. And that's why basically when I say where the humor comes in, is because that's his style when he's treating his patients. So he's not like just treating the symptoms, he's treating the person. Right? So there's like a scene where okay, it's like to spoil something. I think one of his patients like wanted to just like a bunch of kittens, basically. It's like, it's like feeling like lonely and wanted something like, cute and cuddly. So they bring in a bunch of kittens for this this person, and like, it's like the patient's demeanor just brightens. So like I said, that's what I love, but basically I love about this movie. Like I said, it is very much a tearjerker. You're like, I'll admit I cried. I cried when I first watched this movie. So, and like I said, it's demonstrated to me that Robin Williams can do drama. If you haven't seen 1 Hour Photo, that
one I've seen.
That almost demonstrates that not only can Robin Williams do drama, but he can do it very fucking well when given the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, Good Will Hunting as well.
Well, no, I'm saying it's like, because like he started out in comedy, and most people when start out in comedy, it's very difficult to go from that one medium to like say drama or whatever. He's one of the few comedians who seamlessly did it with Good Will Hunting, Patch Adams, 1 Hour Photo. 1 Hour Photo is more of like, it's a drama, but it's a thriller too, which is why I was like, if you have not seen it, he is very good in that. He is very fucking good in that.
Oh, hell yes.
That's more of a thriller. It's like a drama, but it's more of a thriller, and he's very good in it.
He does a 10 out of 10 in 1 hour photo.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I don't want to go too much into details about with Patch Adams, but I love that he, as a doctor, like I said, he didn't just treat the symptoms. He treated the person. So yeah, obviously he's going to treat whatever symptoms the individual has, but he looks at them. He looked at them, and it's like, it's not just giving them a pill or doing whatever to make them feel better. Like sometimes, like it's just brightening their day can help them feel better. You're just adding that as part of like the routine. He kind of basically he became a thorn in the side, so to speak, with the administrators, basically, because their whole purpose is to, patient comes in, treat the patient, get the patient out, basically, like let's start basically rotating it. So we're like, we can like get beds empty. So if like we're not, so like get beds empty, so we're not like full capacity, basically, like quick turnover. he's like no, pretty much. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, watch it. Very good movie. It's called Patch Adams, based on a true story. You wouldn't think, like I said, watching this movie that it would be, but it is. And it proves that you're never too old to go back to school. This man did, and became a doctor. Yeah, very much it is. Like our basic medical system hasn't really changed. It hasn't really changed. So yeah. Oh yeah, Death of Smoochy. I forgot about that. Anyway, that is my number 7, Patch Adams. Okay, so I start
6.
Yeah. This one here, I think this one flew under the radar. This is a movie I think that flew under the radar. It's one of those movies where I can't say too much or else I'll give shit away. But it's Suicide Kings. It's a movie.
Never
Suicide
heard of
Kings. Mm-hmm. What?
Never heard of it.
All right, Suicide Kings. All right. Whenever you look it up, basically, it's either like 1997 or 1998. It's one of those movies where it's like it's at the cusp of 97 or 98, basically. But I think like officially came out in 98. All right. It didn't do well. All right, when it came out. But I like it because it's a crime thriller black comedy combination, basically, because it's centered around five group of friends, and I'm going to tell you their names. All right, okay. Sean Patrick Flannery, Johnny Galecki, Jay Moore, Jeremy Sisto, Henry Thomas. All right, and so forth. And I think those are the 5 friends. And one of them, I think it was Henry Thomas's character. His sister's kidnapped. And his sister's kidnapped, and he and his friends have the bright idea, basically, okay, to kidnap a man named Charlie Barrett, who's a mob boss. And they think basically like holding him hostage, they can figure out what happened to the one guy's sister. Basically. Because the kidnappers are demanding like a couple $1 million in ransom for the sister. Or at least that's what Henry Thomas's character knows. Right? So then they kidnap this mob figure who's revealed basically it's revealed that he's a mob figure, to think that if he has connections and he could figure out who kidnapped the sister and maybe get the sister back without having to pay the ransom. That's all I'm going to say. Because if I say anything more, I could very easily give something away. It has Dennis Leary as well. Laura San Giacomo, Cliff DeYoung. It's a good cast, basically good cast. Brad Garrett's in it also. So cannot go too much into detail. Officially released in 98. Yeah, that's what I said. Depending on where you look it up, it either gives the 1997 date where it was released here, or the official release date. But Christopher Walken plays the mob boss. So basically, Christopher Walken is the one that these guys got the bright idea to kidnap and figure out, hey, if we can use his connections to figure out who kidnapped the one guy's sister. And that's really at the core of the movie, basically. It's like those scenes with the back and forth between Christopher Walken's character and the five guys. There are other parts to it, but again, I don't want to go into like detail of like what Dennis Leary's role in this movie is, or Brad Garrett's role in this movie is, because I could potentially reveal too much about what happens. So, but if you haven't seen it, I'm gonna say the thing. Objectively, it's not like objectively I would say it's not the best movie, best crime thriller movie. But I like the fact that they add dark comedy to it. And say what you will about Christopher Walken's acting chops, it works here. It works here for the character he plays. So
would you agree if I said that Christopher Walken's much like Nicolas Cage?
Yeah.
It either works or it doesn't. Yeah.
And it's been like that pretty much his entire career. So it either works or it doesn't. Like there are like roles where it's like, what's Dead Zone? I don't exactly buy him as the main character in that movie. It's based on a Stephen King story. But that acting style, like I said, works in this movie. So he's one of those movies where he's one of those actors where it's like, yeah, it either works or it doesn't. So if you haven't seen it, it's like worth at least a watch, because there is like it's not as simple as it appears. When I say as simple as, I don't want to get too far into it. So, but that's my number 6, Suicide Kings.
Well, my number 6 is, well, I consider it to be underrated. To be honest, it's Urban Legend.
I do like that movie. There's one part I don't like, but I do like that. It's not on my list, but I do like that movie.
Yeah. I remember liking it back when it came out, but then when I rewatched it, I think it was last year or the year before, I liked it a heck of a lot more. This movie would not have been made if Scream hadn't happened, because this sure as heck came straight out of the Scream wave, the craze.
It pretty much did. It pretty much did. Where Scream was a parody of slasher movies, this is kind of a, well, this is like takes urban legends as the main plot thread.
Yeah, and I realized I like this movie more than I like Scream. To be completely honest, Scream is a better movie, easily, but I just like this one better.
I would say I would rewatch it, but like I said, I remember it enough to remember that there was one part I did not like.
Oh,
and I didn't skip over it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, basically, someone starts killing people at the local school, and uses urban legends as the kill method in a way.
Yeah.
It's got a good cast. Robert Englund is in it as one of the teachers.
Yeah, the cast was good. The cast was surprisingly good.
Yeah, Michael Rosenbaum.
I I think like most people forget about it because of the fact that it was riding the Scream wave, and Scream had more notoriety behind it because Wes Craven was involved.
Yeah. Oh, Soul Assassin's asking what happened to Rebecca Gayheart. I think she killed someone with a car, and she pleaded guilty. She didn't try to hide it, so kind of vanished after that. I don't know if it was drunk driving or whatever it was. You could probably find it out, but that's uh, that's what happened. And she was great in this movie. She was awesome. But I can't say too much because it'll spoil. Because it's also a who done it, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's basically like again following this, riding the Scream wave. It's a mystery, so it's like who's
Yeah.
committing the crime. So you have to kind of narrow down the suspects, and one way to do that is when one gets off, okay, we can scratch that person off the list. So you kind of have to pay attention because like
Yeah.
little clues are kind of dropped here and there, but for the most part, like it is very much a mystery.
Yeah. It's but it is also a fairly run of the mill slasher because that's what it is. It's not trying to copy Scream or anything,
Mhm.
but it took advantage of Scream having reopened those doors wide open.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like I'm
and
fine with like movies being run of the mill. Like,
yeah,
as long as like they know, hey zombie, as long as they like the movie knows what it is and doesn't try to be anything else. That's why I'm like, I'm not saying elevated horror. I'm not saying that I don't like elevated horror, but I'm just over these horror movies coming out nowadays that try to be something and they're not. I'm like, you're a supernatural horror movie. Just like release like that slasher movie.
Yeah.
Just release that. Like I get every now and then an elevated horror movie. Basically, every now and then, but Hollywood is basically thinks it's more creative than it is.
yeah,
It just doesn't work.
yeah. It's something that's tried and true. There's nothing wrong with that.
No,
And
I'm like,
not
keep it
not
simple.
not every movie has to be the godfather of its genre, right?
No, that's why I'm like, keep it simple, stupid. Basically, you're
Yeah,
a slasher movie, just be a slasher movie. You're a supernatural movie, just be a supernatural movie.
yeah. So anyway, Urban Legend. I
Mhm.
truly like this movie.
Yes.
If I had to make a top 5 slasher movie list, it might even be on that. Beyond my top 5.
Maybe I'd have to go back and rewatch it, but like I said, I'd have to skip a certain part.
Yeah,
I'm like, every other urban legend you could have picked, you chose that one just because it's well known. I get it; it's very well known. If you know urban legends, you know the one. You would know this one.
yeah, and it's when I'm making D&D,
Hmm.
I'm going through the monster manual. Like, can't. It's an animal. It's an animal. It's an
Yeah,
animal.
that's because of me. Full on.
Yeah,
Me.
it is. But I don't mind. I'll just work around it. But sometimes it's unavoidable.
If it's like a cryptid, I'm still not exactly a fan of it, but at that same time, like my character nearly dies each time, so I'm fully prepared to end it before it ends me.
Yeah.
But like dogs, like regular animals, things like that, I'm like, no. So
Yeah. Anyway, that was my number 6.
I think there's like
And
one elevated horror movie that came out recently, and it's slightly elevated just because of the main character, and I would say that is Talk to Me. It still knows it's a supernatural movie. It still knows that. But
would
it is
you
slightly elevated, I would say, just slightly.
would you qualify It Follows as an elevated horror movie?
I wouldn't even call it a horror movie necessarily, because at the same time, it's like,
Or it's based on an STD.
yeah, I'm saying it's basically don't have sex.
You know?
So
I think that one's getting a sequel.
Yeah, it is. Basically, now you've had sex, you got to deal with the STD.
Yeah, AIDS follows.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much what it is. I'm saying it's basically don't have sex. It's literally that movie's just don't have sex.
Yeah.
Dark City does not make my list, but I do enjoy it. I just counted I just said slightly because of the main character. And I don't want to say anything because if you haven't seen the movie. But if you know the movie and you know the main character and what she's going through, that's what I'm like. That's what I mean, like where it's slightly elevated in that regard. But otherwise, the movie overall knows exactly what it is. Doesn't try to be anything bigger than that. Anyway.
I'm to do 5.
Yes, you start 5.
Well, 5 is a massive blockbuster with an enormous cast. It's Armageddon.
All right.
Starring, well, it's a Michael Bay movie. I believe.
Yeah, very much.
Full of explosions and it's implausible all over the place.
Incredibly.
But damn, is it entertaining. It's rewatchable, big time. If you just want to watch a silly disaster movie with lots of special effects and all that stuff, and a good cast. Sorry, Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck is in it. Owen Wilson for a little bit until he, flies off. As a Swedish actor playing a Russian. Yeah. He probably steals the show. That's a damn good actor.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Bob Thornton's in it. Liv Tyler. Yeah. I don't know if people have. Well, I'm not going to spoil the ending if there's someone in there that hasn't seen it, but
yeah,
this was probably the second biggest movie of the year.
Probably.
Because there's a war movie that was probably bigger.
Yeah.
But
the latter's on my list.
Yeah. This is just pure entertainment, though.
Pretty much.
That's what it's
is. I know I've seen Armageddon. I know I remember parts of it. But it's one of those movies where it's like it pretty much fully is full on implausibility.
Oh yeah. There's
So
just send the drillers out into space without any without any astronaut training whatsoever.
Pretty much was carried by Steven Tyler. This people remember the song. Don't want to miss a thing.
Yeah.
That's how people remember it. The song comes on and that was an Armageddon.
Yeah, put that one on in 1998 and you'll get lucky.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I'll leave it at that.
Anyway, my number 5 is technically not. When I say technically, very technically, is another kind of rom-com, but it involves witchcraft, and I very much enjoy it because I like Sandra Bullock.
Oh, that one almost made my list, but
Practical Magic.
Thing is, it had been too long since I watched it, so I figured, shit, if I pick that one, I'll just be like talking in general, like, that's what I think happened, right?
Yeah,
but it's a good movie.
Yes. So, like I said, it's a rom-com. No. But it involves witchcraft, basically. Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman play witches. Basically, they're sisters. If you can believe they're related, their characters. No, not the craft is. But that was 96.
Well,
no.
Yeah, it's kind of like.
I'm saying in terms of looks, you did believe that they're related, basically. But they play sisters. Sandra Bullock. I think she's the older of the two. I think her character's the older of the two.
It's basically the craft plus rom-com.
Yeah, but without the but the witches aren't psycho like in The Craft, basically.
Yeah.
A little bit, a little bit like I would say, like a little bit like that, basically. No, I'm not Bride of Chucky. No. So, but Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman play sisters, and they come from a long line of witches. And one element of the plot, basically, that is that if they hear the sound of a certain beetle, that is a bad omen, because that means that the man that they marry will meet an untimely end. Basically, it's one thing they it's kind of like a plot point that goes through the entire movie, or at least it's on the back minds of their in the entire movie. And I love Diane Wiest and Stockard Channing play their aunts, basically. So what happens is, at the beginning of the movie, it's not really spoiling much of anything, but at the beginning of the movie, that's exactly what happens, basically. Like, their mother hears the sound of this beetle or whatever bug it is, and the girls, their father dies, and the mother, you don't exactly see everything that happens, but I can't remember if the mother died or not, basically, or just got really depressed and couldn't take care of her daughter. So the daughters are raised by their two aunts, played by Diane Wiest and Stockard Channing, who are also witches. Fast forward, again, the older daughters are played by Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman, and they kind of have to hide the fact that they're witches, because at least when they were kids, they didn't use their witchcraft openly, but at the same time, it's kind of they were, rumors abounded, basically, that they were witches. So it's kind of like the rumor mill churned that they were witches, kind of a thing, but wasn't confirmed, basically, that they were, even though the audience knows that they are. Being very fucking confusing, basically, but they're kind of hiding the fact that they are witches. And Sandra Bullock's character is trying to live a normal life. She's trying to live as normal life as possible. Nicole Kidman's character, she's like the wild child of the two. She's the one is kind of like the kind of the gypsy mentality. She goes from town to town. She doesn't stay put long in any place, and she tends to fall for the wrong type of men. And I think part of the reason why her character does that is because, well, if she falls for the wrong type of man, she's not going to stick with him, which means she's not going to marry him, and she's not going to worry about that whole little thing that happens with the men who marry into the family. I think it's worth watching. I don't want to say too more, because the plot itself is not exactly intricate, but at the same time, it's if I were to say anything more about Nicole Kidman's character, it might reveal too much. If I say too more about Sandra Bullock's character, it might reveal too much, basically, sort of situation. And there is rom-com to it, basically, so there is a romantic comedy aspect to it. Because what's his name? Aidan Quinn has a role in it. And I think he's one of those ones where it's you've probably seen him in a lot of 90s movies, and just he never really was, I would say, a big star. And so forth. I think it's worth watching. It is worth watching. It's a romantic comedy, but at the same time, it's it doesn't lean heavily into it necessarily. A lot of the movie revolves around the bond, the family bond. All right, not just with not just the general family bond, but the sister bond between Nicole Kidman's character and Sandra Bullock's character. Very much the plot is centered of more of the sister relationship versus a romantic one. So, and it's a feel good ending. All right. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend it. I might rewatch it at some point now that I'm talking about it, because I do enjoy that movie. I it's one of my favorite ones. It's one of my favorite.
Sorry.
I generally don't gravitate towards rom-coms or anything like that, but it's one of my favorites of that genre.
Sandra Bullock was on a roll from the mid 90s and out.
Yeah. So yeah. So Big Lebowski was on my list. It was number 8 zombie, and Saving Private Ryan is on my list, but it's not number 1. So yeah. Oh yes, Trace. American History X is totally a rom-com. Yeah, so if you have not seen Practical Magic, I recommend giving it at least a watch. So that is my number 5. So I start number 4.
Yep.
Which is Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, that's my number 1.
So I won't say too much about it, basically. I won't say too much about it. The only reason why it's not a little bit higher on the list is because it's one of those movies where it is very good. I love it. It's very good. But it's one of those gut punch type movies where it's like, okay, I'll watch it and then I'm good for a while.
Plus, it's long, so it's not something you rewatch that often.
A little bit, yeah. I don't mind long movies as long as they're engaging, but at the same time, it's like the entire movie is like one gut punch after another. I heard about that, and I'm like, dear God, no. But basically, movie begins. The beginning of the movie is basically like a holy shit, because it is centered on the storming of Normandy. Basically, the movie focuses on Omaha Beach, that part of the storming of Normandy. My one grandfather was part of that campaign, but he landed on Utah Beach. He landed in that section. So thankfully he wasn't part of the opening, like what happened during the opening scene, because that very, very much was
it was a slaughter.
It like pretty much, yeah. It pretty much is like kind of like if I were to equate it to any like one of like to at least one other battle or part of a war in U.S. history, it was like Pickett's Charge, basically. If you haven't seen Gettysburg, or if you've seen Gettysburg or you know history, you know what I'm talking about, basically. Or it's basically the last day, and General Pickett is ordered to lead his men across this field to take on the Union troops. And it's open space, basically. There's no cover, and his men are picked off like that.
It's fish in a fish in a barrel.
That's what I would like equate the slaughter sequence to the opening, the storming of Omaha Beach. Because it was a slaughter, basically, because like you have the Germans with the high grounds, literally, raining lead down onto Allied troops. All right. Okay, for those who know history, you know that we eventually took over. We stormed Omaha Beach. We eventually took over. All right, not until after losing a lot of Allied troops.
Yeah, because the Germans didn't even have that many troops there. It was just a bunch of machine guns on the cliffs.
They just had the advantage of the high ground. Basically.
Yeah, so imagine the machine gunners, right, on those cliffs.
Mm-hmm.
The insane kill count each of them had.
Yeah,
it has to be astronomical.
No, he didn't have PTSD. My grandfather did not have PTSD. Like I said, he was part of because it wasn't just Omaha Beach that was stormed. There were two other beaches, and he met resistance at Utah Beach, but not nearly as much as Omaha Beach. But anyway, so, and after the opening sequence, after that slaughter, you see the death notices, basically, like the people who basically put together the telegrams. We regret to inform you, to the parents that their child, all right, was lost, was killed in action. And this woman sees, she starts seeing one name pop up, last name Ryan, and then she's like, oh, there was another one with the last name Ryan, and then she looks like there has to be seems there's another one, 3 with the last name Ryan, all to the same address, and they realize, holy shit, 3 brothers just died.
Yeah.
3 brothers just died. There's a 4th one, the youngest one, behind enemy lines, and the military's like been like this for a long time. If you are the last surviving son in your family, you you cannot serve in the military, because it pretty much is up to that surviving son to carry on the family line. And that's hence the title of this movie, Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
So Tom Hanks is tasked with leading a group of men across France, behind enemy lines, pretty much, to rescue this one guy to get him home. Yeah, even a young Vin Diesel's in this movie.
Nathan Fillion too.
Yeah, this is like a star-studded cast.
Yeah, and well, I'm assuming everyone's seen this movie, but there's like a common thread where everyone who carries the letter gets killed.
So, I believe so. Yeah. So, but basically, like, they have to, as part of them going to get this guy, they have to carry this. Vin Diesel's character. Okay, spoiler alert. Okay, he's part of the group tasked with getting Private Ryan. All right, and he's shot by a sniper. Before he dies, he hands off his a letter that he had in his pocket that he had written for his father, and he gives it to one of the guys in his group, before he dies, and that's the letter that Steve is referring to. So, oh yeah, I love Sabaton. So, and they also changed. I think they changed after World War II. They changed it so that way that you, not that you couldn't serve in the same branch, but you couldn't serve in this same group, division. You couldn't be in this at the same base. I think they changed it so that because of what was happening during World War II. So it's not you could have 2 brothers serving in the army, as an example, but one had to be stationed. Yeah, you couldn't be in the same unit, basically. So one had to be stationed in one place and one had to be stationed in another place. So, yeah, I can't believe it either. I don't mind Shakespeare in Love, and the only reason why I don't mind Shakespeare in Love is just because I love Jeffrey Rush's character. But yeah, I can't believe this movie lost to Shakespeare in Love. Yeah, it wasn't called PTSD back then, but they got PTSD. I think they called it shell shock back then. I think that's what it was called. But yeah, there was PTSD. They got horrible PTSD.
Hell yes, they're basically alive by pure luck. And
if you want, it doesn't exactly center on PTSD. But when I say it doesn't exactly center on it, but one or two of the characters kind of do have PTSD, and that is what is that? The Best Years of Our Lives. I believe there's a movie called Best Years of Our Lives. And the movie centers on 3 returning vets from World War II. It's after post-World War II. And one of them is actually an actual Navy vet, because one of the actors in the movie, because he's actually missing a hand. That's not like fake prosthetic or anything like that. He's actually missing a hand. And what's it?
Oh yeah, Fuck Norris mentions.
I'm blanking on the cast.
Deer Hunter as well. Fuck Norris is bringing it up. That's a PTSD movie. And hell, Rambo 1 to some extent.
Oh yeah. Okay, Dana Andrews. That's a male, by the way. Dana Andrews, Frederick March, and where's his name? Harold Russell, I believe. Yeah, I think that actor actually lost his hand. Yeah, June 1944, when some TNT he was using exploded in his hands, so he lost his hands. So like basically, when you're watching this movie, that's not like fake prosthetics or anything, where it's like, oh, he's playing a character that's and it like I don't want to say invalid basically, but he's like that's actual a war injury. I say that very lightly basically, but like that's not fake prosthetics or anything. Like he actually lost his hands. But like basically like like you watch it's a classic movie, right? Because I grew up watching classic movies. It's from I gotta look this up. 1946. It's about a year after the official end of World War II, and it follows these like three one's Navy. I can't remember if the other two are Air Force or what, basically. But they're returning home, and it basically kind of follows them getting reacclimated to civilian life, and that's where kind of like the PTSD comes in just a little bit because of like what their lives had been like for the past 4 years roughly, 4 or 5 years roughly, to now like going back to living as civilians. So I saw a question. Technically, I do come from a military family, but my dad was unable to serve. So it was like my two grandfathers and then me. So I love recommending classic movies, especially if they're good. But the best years of our lives. It's kind of a tearjerker. It's a drama. But yeah, like I said, it's like I said, one of the actors in there is an actual wounded vet. So, but anyway, Saving Private Ryan. That made my number 4. Like I said, the only reason why it's not slightly higher is because it is very visceral. And it's one of those movies where it's, despite the fact that it is very good, it's one of those, okay, I'm good for a while after watching it. So, anyway, I don't know if that's my number 4, and that's your turn now.
Yeah, my number 4 is another creature flick with a great cast. Deep Rising. Objectively, it's a bad movie. Subjectively, it's fun as hell. A cruise ship gets attacked by something. We don't know yet what it is. Famke Janssen is on board as a thief, trying to basically rob jewelry and whatever from the ship.
I just want to respond to this real fast. Normally, I would do this, but I think I'm one of the few who's seen lots of movies from each decade. So I don't know how many Stieg has seen from the 40s.
I've seen a bunch from each decade, but I'm not sure if I watched 10 from 46.
Yeah, I'm saying I could probably easily get 10. I just don't know about Stieg.
No.
Anyway. Yeah, Deep Rising, I know I've seen that. Did not make my list, but like I said, I did narrow it down from over 50.
Yeah. Well, basically, the derelict cruise ship is found by some, I guess, fortune hunters and mercenaries. Treat Williams has a boat, which the Black Lagoon show.
Mm-hmm.
I have a sneaking suspicion that boat and the crew was heavily inspired by this movie, because the boat's almost identical.
Probably was, or at least in part.
And you have similar stereo, templates of characters in it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Treat Williams and the ratty guy from The Mummy is in it.
Oh, that guy, yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Wes Studi is there, and Cliff Curtis, I think. they go on board because they have their own agenda. Treat Williams doesn't know this because they've chartered a ship, and then they soon turn on him and start to take charge, and do as you're told or you die, right?
Mhm.
Turns out though, the whole damn ship is empty. There's no passengers. They're gone. They start finding bits of them eventually. It turns out a beastie has gotten into the ship, into the vents. Big tentacle beastie. So it kind of turns a little bit into Aliens,
Mhm.
where they have to try and get off the ship and all that stuff. Action packed, lots of fun kills and what have you, and some ironic kills and pure entertainment. And it has a cool ending that's very pulp B movie ish.
Mhm.
But yeah, awesome. Famke Janssen, I think, steals the show in this. She is really good as a conniving, self-serving thief. Uh, Pretty much lies constantly to get out of trouble.
Mhm.
But great chemistry with Treat Williams. So she's like an anti-heroine-ish sidekick, kind of whatever.
Yeah,
It's great. I like it.
that's good. And like I said, I had to leave it off my list.
Yeah. Uh, and I'm supposed to do three.
Yeah, start.
I have a sneaking suspicion I'm going to wreck one of yours.
Mhm.
It's Blade.
Yeah, it's my number 2.
Yeah, well, we were close though.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's an action movie. It has horror elements, but it is an action movie.
Yeah.
Blade is a half vampire
Yeah.
because his mother got turned into a vampire while she was pregnant with him,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah,
Uh,
she has. So the only weakness he has is like desire for blood, but otherwise he has vampires, like the vampire strength, but he can walk in the daytime, so they call him Daywalker.
yeah, and he's kind of trained and supplied by Whistler,
Mm-hmm.
played by Chris Christopherson, who is completely superb in this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a plot involving, the leading vampire coven, and Stephen Dorff's character, who's up to no good in this. He has his own agenda. He is also great in this. I always thought he was an underrated actor, but he's kind of vanished too, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's off the radar. Like he was also big in the '90s to early 2000s, and then just
Yeah,
fell off.
don't know what happened. But a great opening scene in this one too.
Mm-hmm.
At the disco thing. But anyway, I'll leave you with some stuff to say as well.
Oh yeah. Um, my number 3, as you mentioned, you don't like Chris Tucker, but I do like the Rush Hour movies, so I had to put Rush Hour on the list.
You know what?
Mhm.
I dislike him so much that he actually ruined the Fifth Element for me. He is why
He is
I
not the best part in that. I will give you that. He's over the top, pretty fucking over the top.
so loud, and the whiny, nagging,
Yeah.
screechy voice. I hate him.
Hmm.
I'm sure he's a nice guy in real life and all that stuff. I just hate
Hmm.
his guts, and every time I see him, I want to beat him up.
I can
Yeah.
get that. I can get that. But anyway, but I included this because, yeah, Jackie Chan is pretty much supports the communist government in China. However, I do love like watching Jackie Chan movies. I consider it more of a Jackie Chan movie than anything, basically. But anyway, it's begins with like basically the last day of British rule in Hong Kong. So if you don't know history, Hong Kong was ruled by Britain for a long time until finally that country gave up its control to China. So Hong Kong basically merged, so to speak, essentially with China. But became officially, under the Chinese government. Right, it's basically. So it's like that happened in 1997. So it kind of begins with that. There's this crime lord that's been who goes by the name of Jun Tao, basically, and who's been eluding law enforcement, and no matter what, they just cannot catch this guy. Fast forward a couple months later, character's name is Han, I believe, but anyway, Han, who was originally he was like part of the Chinese government as a consul or something like that, and he takes a diplomatic post in Los Angeles. Okay, and then one day his little daughter is kidnapped by Jun Tao's men. Right, so FBI becomes involved, and that's where we kind of see Chris Tucker's character, who's wants to be part of the FBI, with all his might wants to be part of the FBI. He's LAPD. And basically, I can't remember I think the reason why he was initially assigned to work with the FBI was basically to get him out of the LAPD's hair, because he's one of those characters that no one could really stand. So the FBI needed someone basically as a gopher, and Tucker's character is assigned to them basically. Han brings in Inspector Lee, who's played by Jackie Chan, and it becomes kind of like a quasi buddy cop movie because Lee's looking for the daughter. Tucker's he's acting on his own because he's been assigned to babysit Lee. That's why he's been brought in, basically, because the FBI doesn't want to deal with Inspector Lee. So as a result, Tucker's character, whose character's name is what's his name? Carter. Right. That becomes kind of a semi-buddy cop movie at that point, because they team up to try to find this diplomat's daughter. And like any Jackie Chan movie, you got Jackie Chan doing his own stunts, doing his own, fights and so forth. And you have the comedy of fish out of water type of humor and so forth. And I don't want to say too much because you do see it is revealed who Jun Tao is and so forth. But I don't want to say too much. And that scene right here, I'm not gonna read what Trey said. But if you watch that scene, it perfectly highlights the mentality of the SJWs, the leftists nowadays, basically, because the scene begins with Carter saying, "Follow my lead." Basically, follow my lead. And he's telling this to Lee, he's not American, basically, he's from China. And so, he's watching Carter greet these guys, basically, what up, my? And he's hearing this. I know it's funny, but at the same time, if you think about it, perfectly encapsulates the mentality nowadays, where it's it's okay for one demographic to say it, but it's not okay for anybody else to say it, even if it's in the same tone. Basically, even if it's in the same tone, no animosity or racism or anything to it. Basically, it's okay for one to say it, but not the other. But it's still done with humor because you have Jackie Chan kicking ass. So it's so it kind of was, and ahead of its time, a commentary on a certain demographic nowadays. Yeah, pretty much. But anyway, so again, I don't want to say too much. It is an action movie, yes, but I don't want to give away any reveal or anything like that. And it spawned 2 sequels, so basically, Rush Hour is a trilogy.
Yeah, I've never seen 2 and 3.
So I would expect you to, because you don't like Chris Tucker. So
no, well, I might watch them eventually, but it's he put me off the sequels.
Mm-hmm. So, like I said, might do a ones and twos for Rush Hour, but at the same time, it's like it technically, well, the stories, I don't know, maybe because it's not exactly an overarching story, unlike like Lord of the Rings, basically. So it is like separate. It is different bad guys each one. So maybe I could do for the ones and twos. So.
Well, you could do Bad Boys 1 and 2.
Oh, that I could do, but I was thinking like someone said earlier in the chat, like Rush Hour 1 and 2 for the ones and twos, and I was thinking, well, yeah, it's not. I could do it because it's not. There's no overarching plot throughout each one, basically. So it's not like one cohesive story. So technically, I could do it.
Yeah, Urban Legend 1 and 2 as well.
Maybe. Like I said, I had to skip over one part.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you know me, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, that's my number 3, Rush Hour. So my number 2 is Blade. If you want more of a more in-depth discussion of the Blade movie, check out go back through my previous live streams. Orange Chat and I covered Blade 1 and 2 for the ones and twos. So that'll be more in-depth discussion when it comes to at least the first movie. But it's my number 2. Stars Wesley Snipes. There's only one Blade. There ever will only be one Blade. And he's called Daywalker, like I said, because his mother was pregnant with him when she was attacked and bitten by a vampire. So basically the disease, so to speak, made its way to the unborn child, Blade. And as a result, the only weakness he really has is a hunger for blood. Like if he doesn't keep himself satiated.
The reason why he is the way he is actually has a really good explanation, I thought. That his pregnant mom got bitten and it affected him. Yeah. I thought that
which is pretty comic accurate.
But even in the comic, I thought that was as far as because he is technically a superhero in a way, but as far as
he has like basically all their strengths and only really, really one of their weaknesses, and that's like the thirst for blood. That's it.
But it's
makes him inhuman, even though he is human. So.
A lot of the other superheroes, when they get their origin, the reason why they have the powers, it's very often just glued on. It's like a chemical accident in the lab or something. Mm-hmm. But this is actually fairly well thought out, and I think it makes sense within the frames of the franchise, right?
Yeah. But it works basically because it's actually, I mean, it's a supernatural explanation, but it's an explanation that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it would be transmitted to her unborn child, and she gives birth basically before she dies, and it's like he's eventually found and brought up by Whistler, basically. So Whistler essentially raises him for most of his life, and then subsequently trains him and makes the weapons and so forth because Blade, well, he becomes known as Blade, hunts vampires. So, trying to think. Trying to remember what his character's real name is. So I don't think it's mentioned in the movie. Is it mentioned in the first movie?
There's
the character's real name is Eric Brooks.
There's a similar one going around now. It's Wesley Snape. He's going to be in the Harry Potter show.
Oh, shut up. But he's really. I was going to say I couldn't quite remember what his real name is. Eric Brooks. Basically, Blade is like the moniker he goes by when, because that's what vampires know him as. I couldn't remember if it was mentioned in the movie or not.
I think maybe it was, but dwelled on.
Either wasn't dwelled on, or if it's like just so in passing that blink and you miss it. Hello. But yeah, so I again basically again, if you want a more in-depth discussion, like I said, Orange and I covered the first 2 Blade movies for the 1s and 2s, and we go into detail about what Stephen Dorff's character is up to, and the overall plot of the movie, the branding of certain individuals, basically who are kind of like human familiars for vampires.
I'm gonna have to give Trey Courtney an 8 out of 10.
I think they did, but at the same time, I can't quite remember if they did or not.
Trey Courtney says Harry Potter and the Half-Fresh Prince. He gets 8 out of 10 for that one. Well done, sir.
Oh yeah, I remember that. He was originally in a deleted. We covered that. It's like a post-credit scene that was deleted, and he was supposed to be the big bad, or integral to I think was it the second or the third movie? I think it was the second movie, and it was scrapped. So we would have had Morbius earlier than what we got, but like I said, it was scrapped. So we never got it, at least as part of the Blade universe. Anyway, before we go into our number 1s, well, you have to leave your number 2. Sorry, but we'll go down the list again for those who tuned in late.
Yeah, I have to do 2 and 1 first, right?
Well, 2, and then we'll go down our list, and then you go into your number 1.
Okay. My number 2 is Lethal Weapon 4. I think it's awesome. I don't think Lethal Weapon has any bad entries. It's one of the few, franchises that doesn't have that. Granted, 4 is probably worse than 1 and 2, but it's still really good. And continues off like they always did. Murtaugh and Riggs having their lives have gone on a bit and advanced a bit. Riggs is in a more steady relationship with Lorna. Turns out she's pregnant, and there's something going on with the Murtaugh family. All of a sudden, they have money. Murtaugh's boat finally sinks. There's Chinese slaves essentially being smuggled in from China to work for is it like a Tong thing or whatever in the United States. Jet Li is the villain. He's superb in this movie. Beats the fuck out of both of the heroes. Lots of good humor, lots of action, everything you want in a Lethal Weapon movie. And Joe Pesci has one of the best speeches on screen in this. The end scene with the frog. And this movie also ends the series perfectly, which is why I'm kind of not sure I want the 5th one, because it has a great ending. But Lethal Weapon 4. I rewatch all 4 every year. I've done that for at least 15 years.
Yeah, and I love for people SJWs are like, oh, so racist. Jet Li, having Jet Li and the Asians as villains. Blah 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 blah. Or whatever bullshit reasoning they gave, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure if Jet Li had a problem with it, he would have said something.
Plus, he's being a villain towards other Asians primarily.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure. I was they basically take away, they're speaking for the actor or actress, basically. Yeah. And I'm like, you're taking away that person's voice. And I'm pretty fucking sure Jet Li, because he was a big star. He was a pretty damn big star. like even in America, basically in the 90s and so forth, if he had a problem with something, I'm more than confident he would have said something.
Basically, the people who complain about stuff, they take a group of people and stick them in the spotlight, and then basically arrange a bunch of insane arguments around them so that the people in the spotlight look like the idiots.
Yeah.
When they've done nothing.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there'll be the political, spectrum or whatever you want to call it is like a pendulum. It'll swing.
Oh yeah.
And for the last 10 years, it's been very far to the left. Now it's started to swing, but I think it's going to swing fast and hard. And the people that got stuffed in right in the path of it, in the spotlight, they're the ones that are going to get hit. It's not the Karens on the left that just used all kinds of people just to, virtue signal, right?
Oh yeah. So this is entirely what they do. It's entirely what they do. And yes, the pendulum will swing too far to the other side. It's done that repeatedly ever since like the birth of the entertainment industry, basically. And it pop culture reflects the times. The times are a reflection of the pop culture trends, and it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah. As for villains and heroes, there's a good writing tip there that because I've studied writing. The strength of the protagonist is measured by the threat posed by the antagonist. So the stronger the antagonist, the more interesting and the more heroic the hero will be, because you have to overcome a stronger opponent, right? I mean, hell, we see it in Rocky, and Luke Skywalker. So if you have a shit villain, the hero won't seem as heroic at all, right? And that's a big problem in Hollywood and in writing in general now. When was the last time we had a truly epic villain?
I can't think of.
I have no idea. I can't. Well, you have General Zod and stuff, yes, but he wasn't created recently.
No.
They're from the 40s or 50s.
Yeah. So, but no, now some villains have to be sympathetic. They have to be misunderstood.
Yeah, I get it if you want, a reason for the villain to be a villain. Fine.
Which is ironic because my number one has an actually well done sympathetic villain, but he's at its core still a villain.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's how to properly do a sympathetic villain without taking away the fact he is a villain, and I'll be going into that in a little bit. But yeah. But anyway, before we get into our number, if you're done with number 2, we'll get into our number 1s. But before we do, I'm going to go down the list from my 10 to 2, and you'll do so, and then go into your number 1 for those who arrived late. So mine, from 10 to 2, my list is Godzilla, Ever After, The Big Lebowski, Patch Adams, Suicide Kings, Practical Magic, Saving Private Ryan, Rush Hour, and Blade.
Yeah, I have The Faculty, The Mask of Zorro, The X-Files movie, Hard Rain, Urban Legend, Armageddon, Deep Rising, Blade, and Lethal Weapon 4.
All right, and you do number 1?
Well, it's Saving Private Ryan. So
okay, I don't know if you wanted to add anything more than what I talked about, or.
Nah, it's just that it's in my opinion, the best World War II movie that takes place on land. I'd say Das Boot is equally good, but it's a submarine movie. So you can't really compare the two, right? Just because they take place in World War II, they're two different. But yeah,
Well, maybe at some point I will add an honorable mentions list, but I basically just focused on the getting down to number 210, basically.
I'd
Since I
say
had, like, 5.
honorable mentions: Night Watch with Ewan McGregor and Nick Nolte and Patricia
Hold on.
Arquette,
Let me see if there's any.
and Wild
on my-
Things. Wild Things is a good thriller. Thing is, it'll be remembered for the lesbian scene, even though the
Trying
plot
to
is
think.
really good.
My honorable mentions would be Dark City. Let's see. I'm going through my list, basically. Dark City.
There's something about Mary deserves a mention.
I gotta go through the entirety of my list. The Faculty. Vampires. Have any of you in the chat seen Orgasmo?
Yes,
That would be an honorable mention.
it's freaking awesome.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it, watch it. I'm not going to say anything more about it.
Shit, that gave me a D&D idea. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's 90s too.
I'm not saying anything more about that. If you don't know how to spell it, it's Orgazmo. Orgasmo.
Yeah. One of the South Park writers is the lead in it.
I think both South Park guys are in it, but one of them is the lead.
Yeah.
But anyway. All right. But my number one, like I said, is one of the ways to properly do a sympathetic villain. And that is, now, is it like it's I guess necessarily one of the best Batman stories? Probably not. But the villain in it is Mr. Freeze, whose real name is Victor Freeze. And that is one way, like I said, like that's one of the best examples I can come up with in terms of in pop culture and how you do a sympathetic villain. And that is, yes, Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero. All right? It's an animated film. Basically, it's...
Oh, for a moment there, I was thinking Batman and Robin.
No.
Might have been
Dear
98.
God,
I
no.
missed it. I was like, what the hell? This I have to hear, right?
Now, I'm saying, like, I'm saying when I say, like, if you, like, I like, taste is entirely subjective. You might like it, you might not like it, but anyway, but Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero.
That one
Mr.
is
Freeze
good.
was one of the prime examples, especially in pop culture, and how you properly do a sympathetic villain.
Yeah.
Without taking away the fact he is a villain.
I guess also Gollum would count.
He's not, I would not call him sympathetic, I'd call him pitiful. Because to say sympathetic would mean that you would understand and almost agree with his motivations.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, but pitiful, you understand where his motivations, but you don't agree with what he does.
Yeah.
But like, I'm saying, like, it's like, but anyway, so Mr. Freeze is the main villain in this movie. If you have not seen it, and if you like the Batman movies, I recommend watching this. My favorite is still probably, I'd say, Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah, that one's
But this is right up
fantastic,
there.
too.
So basically, Victor Freeze is... I love the fact that he has, like, pet polar bears in this movie. All right, because... Okay, and he's still trying to find a cure for his wife, Nora. And... while, like, he's in the Arctic, basically, because of his condition, he has to be in a very cold climate. And while he's there, a research submarine surfaces, breaking the frozen floor and thus basically damaging the containment vessel housing Nora. Well, basically, Freeze takes advantage of that and uses that submarine crew to return to Gotham City to find an old colleague of his to help find a cure for his wife, because she's beginning to rapidly deteriorate as a result of the vessel being damaged.
Seriously, he should have named the submarine Sub-Zero.
So, yeah, the animation holds up. Yeah, he's two pet polar bears,
Yes.
which I love. which I love. And basically, like, again, it's like basically the overarching plot is rather simple because it's, Mr. Freeze is trying to, the core of his character is trying to find a cure for his wife. Right? That's where the sympathetic part to his character comes from. He's a villain, but like he's coming from the standpoint of he's trying to find a cure for his wife. That's his primary motivation. And as a result of him him using threats, coercion, bribes, and so forth, he determines that basically Barbara Gordon is a perfect match for what he would need for the cure for his wife. It results in the kidnapping of Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, and it becomes basically a rescue mission and so forth. And I don't want to get too much into details because if you've not seen this movie, I don't want to spoil anything. So, yeah. So if you watch the animated series, it ties into that. So it's like it's not exact. You don't exactly have to watch the animated series necessarily, but it's ties into the animated series.
It's like a longer episode, really, of the animated series.
So, like I said, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to reveal too much of anything. I don't want to give anything away or what have you. But if you like Batman the Animated Series and you like overall like the animated films, I recommend watching the Sub-Zero one.
I don't think I've hated any of the animated Batman movies I've watched. Sure, some of them weren't as great, but I haven't hated any of them.
Mm-hmm. I don't think... Hold on. I'm trying to see. I don't think it was released in theaters. So I'm looking at the information to see, and I'm not seeing any theater release dates. So I think that's part of the reason why it kind of gets forgotten outside of a Mask of the Phantasm.
Probably straight to DVD. A lot of the DC animated movies are like that.
This is due to poor reception of Batman and Robin. It was delayed and did not see release until March 17th, 1998. But I think it was like a straight to DVD type of releases. I'm not seeing like a theater, like any theater box office or anything. But it was going to be released earlier, but because of Batman and Robin, it was delayed.
That's a movie they could, re-release in the cinema now, I think.
Mm-hmm. So, like, it would have been a 1997 film, if not for Batman and Robin.
Yeah. The only thing good about Batman and Robin is Arnold's puns.
Pretty much.
Because there's they don't even fit.
Not really. Like, what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. I'm like, oh, it's so bad. But it's kind of like watching a train wreck. You just can't look away.
It's so bad, but with Arnold, at least it's funny.
Let's kick some ice. Yeah. Anyway, but that's my number one.
Yeah.
Just because I love Batman. Batman is my favorite DC hero. So yeah. Is it cliche? Most likely. But I love Batman. I love his rogues gallery of villains. It's pretty much why I gravitated towards Batman to begin with. Because
isn't Batman closing in on turning 100 years old now?
Oh yeah. Close. Not quite there, but close.
Yeah, like a little decade away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. Because he can be both good and bad.
Conan the Barbarian is turning 100 soon.
Mm-hmm. If I trusted Hollywood more, I'd be more optimistic. But what I really want to see is, I keep saying this, I want to see a Batman movie, like actual Batman, not Robert Pattinson, because I did not like the Batman. I don't know if you in the chat liked it. I did not like the Batman movie. But proper Batman film with Man-Bat as the villain. It would be perfect release for around October timeframe because you have that gothic horror.
Yeah.
element. Like, I want to see that.
Actually, you know what? This is probably the perfect time to do it as well because of the success of the Nosferatu movie and then the
Yeah.
upcoming werewolf thing.
Hmm.
I mean, doing an R-rated, Batman versus Man Bat, this is the time for it, really. But will
Yeah.
they do it? No.
No, they won't do it.
They'll just
No, because
rehash the Joker again.
yeah, because like so, and I'm just gonna talk about this comment just real fast. Yeah, like they have not even Nolan's Dark Knight Rises movie got Bane wrong. Not as bad as Batman and Robin, but even that movie got Bane wrong. Bane has not been gotten right at all yet. And like you said, and the reason why, like part of the reason why is one, like Man Bat's name is like people are gonna be like a Man Bat, that's a stupid name because it's like switching the words bat and man basically. But there's but the creation of Man Bat and his looks and everything is just so fucking cool that for some reason they don't want to do. And at the same time, so that's what in the end you pointed out, studios fall back on what's easy, basically.
Yeah.
And what's easy, as far as the Rogues Gallery of villains for Batman, is falling back on the Joker, Catwoman, Two-Face,
And Harley Quinn now.
well, yeah, but I'm saying like of the main villain. Like I don't really include Harley Quinn because she never really was a main villain. She was tied to the Joker, but Joker, Catwoman, Two-Face, Poison Ivy, and Riddler and Penguin.
The
Those
reason why they do it is because people just keep blindly paying for it.
Yeah.
So it's just a circle. I mean, Superman as well is Lex Luthor all the time, right?
Yeah. Deathstroke is like you have Deathstroke, you have Calendar Man could be like a good Hannibal Lecter-esque villain.
Yeah.
If you did him properly in the movie. Like his name doesn't sound threatening at all, but he's very much like a Hannibal Lecter type of intellectual villain.
Hell, Solomon Grundy.
Yeah, Solomon Grundy.
You could do a lot of stuff there.
A proper Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
Would be good.
Hell, yeah,
Mad
Ra's al
Hatter.
Ghul.
The Mad
get a
Hatter.
bunch of ninjas all the time. Just lots of action right there.
Mad Hatter. Scarecrow. I know we saw Scarecrow in Batman Begins, but he was really a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
So we need a proper Scarecrow. I mentioned Mad Hatter, Professor Pig. Like, look at his Rogues Gallery of villains. Like, for some reason, like he has a litany of villains that Warner Brothers could choose from, and yet they fall back on those six that I named because they're recognized by normies.
Yeah.
It's easy because normies know them too.
That's also why they keep doing member berries all the time now.
If we get Man Bat soon, I'll be shocked. I know we're we're getting Clayface body horror film, but I would be shocked if they went the Man Bat route. So, yeah.
Hell, why not just Mr. Freeze as well?
Yeah, proper Mr. Freeze. They got him wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Batman and Robin was a shitty movie, but at least Uma Thurman had fun with it as Poison Ivy.
Yeah.
Victor Freeze, well, they got that wrong. They butchered Bane.
They should have, if they're gonna do like a Poison Ivy in the movie, Christina Hendricks.
I could see that.
She's right there.
Yeah. Yeah, proper Riddler. We're not really gotten a proper Riddler. At least not in movie live action. I haven't watched Gotham because I know he's on that, but we haven't gotten a proper Riddler. We could have had Deathstroke, but Warner Brothers screwed that pooch.
I like the Gotham show. I know it's lore breaking and stuff, but if you look at it as its own thing, I liked it. I did. But it's certainly not canon.
Oh no, I'm saying but I'm saying it's like from what I saw of it, lore breaking as it was in terms of personality, it was a lot closer to what Riddler should be than what we've gotten in movie form.
Yeah.
But like Riddler is also another one. Like Hollywood likes to fall on back on the Riddler. He's one of like the top ones I mentioned, not as much as like other ones I mentioned. But we have not gotten a proper Riddler.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Trey is spot on. Eva Green as Talia al Ghul.
Yeah. I would say they got the Joker right with Nicholson, but not with Ledger. I don't think they got it right with Ledger. Not quite right. He was more chaos.
Yeah.
He's more like anarchy than the clown prince of crime.
I didn't think Nicholson was perfect either, to be honest.
He was closer to an actual clown prince. He was over the top, but he was closer to a clown prince than Heath Ledger was.
Yeah. I think maybe a mix between Nicholson and Jared Leto.
A little bit, yeah, because Joker is psychotic. They never really got into the psychopathy of Joker.
What they should have done, and it's right there, do an adaptation of the Harleen graphic novel.
Here. I'm not going to play the commercial, but have you seen the State Farm commercial recently with Batman versus Bateman?
Nope.
Okay. I'm not going to play it. I'm just going to show you because it basically shows the top rogues gallery of villains. But they look better than what Warner Brothers has done. I'm just going to pause it on.
I thought the Arkham Asylum nailed the Joker.
Here, I'll show you this real fast. I'm not going to play it. I just want to show you this. That looks like Joker.
Yeah.
That Two Faces in the back. Yeah, the Riddler. Poison Ivy's there. The big criticism I have is Catwoman in this commercial. I'm not gonna play it. I just wanted to show. What live action character do you think they got right?
You know, a big missed opportunity is not casting Willem Dafoe as the Joker at some point. It's too late now, but holy crap.
Trying to think what live action Batman character I feel they got right. Let's see. Batman Forever, the villains are wrong in there.
Well, Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer is Catwoman.
Yeah, that's probably the closest. And holy damn, did she nail it?
Mm-hmm. I'd say basically Michelle Pfeiffer is Catwoman.
Yeah. Oh,
that right there, chat. That's Joker.
And I guess Michael Gough as Alfred.
Oh yeah, but I'm thinking more like villains.
Yeah.
She's really the only one they got right because ones have come close but not quite, and then ones they just butchered. Like the Scarecrow. Scarecrow. Is his name pronounced Cillian Murphy?
Yeah, Cillian Murphy.
Perfect fucking casting for the Scarecrow, but it was wasted in Batman Begins because he just became a MacGuffin. Pretty much, he would have been perfect casting, like a proper Scarecrow. He would have been perfect fucking casting for a Scarecrow. Tom Hardy was the fucking miscast as Bane.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand half the word he was saying half the fucking time. Talia al Ghul, they butchered in that movie too. Heath Ledger, I would say, is more like anarchy than Joker.
Maybe
he could, because he wasn't quite Two-Face until the end. But like what we saw was good. But then he was
Maybe-
like subsequently forgotten about in the third one.
Maybe Penguin in the show.
Well, for counting the show, yeah. For counting the show, yeah. But I never really watched the show, so I'm like I couldn't really.
Oh,
I
get
couldn't
it
really say
watched.
much
It's
about it,
awesome.
yeah. He's a little too over the top as Joker, but I did watch the old Adam West series. In terms of looks, Batista, but in terms of acting, no. Because Bane is the intellectual equal of Batman.
Yeah, Bane's not a dummy.
No. Liam Neeson I like, yeah, but I'll agree with you. He was miscast as Ra's al Ghul.
Bane would have to be kind of CGI anyway, wouldn't he?
Not really.
Because
Could
he's
he-
like
I mean-
7 or 8 feet tall, right?
Yeah,
At-
but at the
at
same
his
time, it's like
biggest.
you could get away with, because not everything translates from page to screen, so you could technically get away with him being shorter. But in terms of physicality, like I said, Batista is hit and miss with his acting.
More miss.
I know I'm saying it's like it's like he's like looks wise, yes, acting wise, no. But anyway, okay, it's a little after 10. I'm going to have to get some sleep because, like I said, I have to run errands tomorrow. Tomorrow morning because we have to basically I have to get stuff for Easter. Basically, my mom is going to be preparing a lamb for this weekend, so I have to go pick that up and a couple other things. So
Yeah, now I'm hungry. Damn
Yeah.
it.
sorry about
Lamb
that.
is
But then-
so good though.
Yes, it is. Especially the way my mom prepares it. I know people say that. But it really is fucking good. And I got to find a way to prepare it for other people. So basically, the movies I recommended to give like a watch, like earlier in the movie, like in the show, stream, I should say. If you have not watched Suicide Kings, I recommend at least giving it a watch. If you want like a good classic movie about returning vets, vets returning home to the best years of our lives, it's not exactly an upper, but it's a very good movie. Practical Magic, if you've not seen that, go check it out. And Ever After, basically, it's kind of what if the story of Cinderella actually happens. So yeah, before I do my outro, let everybody know where they can find you, Sieg, and all that fun stuff. It is not Kay Roberts. Sorry.
Well, on Twitter, sometimes I'm on with Teresa on her channel, kind of randomly, and sometimes on your channel, around twice per month. But I'm guessing since we kind of delayed it this month a bit, we'll be back in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Hold on. Let me look at my calendar. We don't have to exactly delay it.
No, but no, I meant we did delay it this time. But
Yeah.
But usually we do it the first week or something.
Well, the first Wednesday of next month is the 7th. That's the first Wednesday because April has 5 Wednesdays. So the last day this month falls on a Wednesday. So basically, when we would do the top 10, because we normally do that the first frame, we'd do that May 7th.
Oh yeah, Zombie Box Reviews pointing out that I'm on Sporking's channel sometimes too. Yes, I am
So
sometimes.
it'd be in about 1, 2, 3 weeks. So yeah, but we get No Talk Nerdy this weekend because we will both be unavailable. Me in particular because I'll be watching WrestleMania. So No Talk Nerdy this weekend. I'm going to try streaming tomorrow because I really want to try defeating the final boss in Doom 2016. Pretty much what I saw was keep doing what I'm doing and try not to die. That's pretty much it's pretty much the recommendations. I'm like, okay, I'll just keep doing what I've been doing and try not to die. Sort of a situation. Then no stream Friday because I'll be watching the SmackDown before WrestleMania. Saturday and Sunday is WrestleMania, so If I do a stream, it'll probably be in the afternoon, one of those 2 days. I doubt it, but we'll see because it's Easter weekend. And then Monday, well, we'll see. We'll see if I finish Doom or not before Monday. If I've finished Doom 2016 tomorrow, then I will try my hand at Doom Eternal. So probably won't do a SmackDown watch party, but I'll be watching it. So I was gonna say that. Anyway, take care, everyone.
I want to wish everyone a happy Easter to you and your families.
Appreciate it. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, have a good rest of your. Oh, and Medieval Doom, I have that because I think it's going to be available on Game Pass. If it is, I have it pre-installed basically, so it's ready to install once it officially drops. So, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, have a good rest of your day or evening wherever you are in the world, and I will see you all. Thank you for the super sticker. Ragfear just popped in. Thank you so much for $3. It says it's a hippo waving saying next time. Appreciate it. So, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, have a good rest of your day or evening wherever you are in the world, and I will see you all hopefully tomorrow for more Doom. If not, then definitely by the following Monday for a gaming stream on my Kick and Twitch. Take care and good night.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.